Hey guys, it's Graham. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be telling y'all 7 au pair stereotypes, and I'm going to be breaking them down to determine whether they are true or whether they are false. I'm going to be breaking these 7 stereotypes down from the least, in my opinion, to the greatest, the stereotype that I hear the absolute most, the one that I got so much response from you guys with. So be sure you stick into the end of the video to hear stereotype number 1 and hear my opinion about it, see what I think. That way you can know how to handle it going forward. Before I jump into this video, if you haven't already, please like it, subscribe to the channel, and leave me a comment down below letting me know what you think. Thank you so much for your support, and that being said, let's jump right in. Over my 3 au pair experiences, a collective of almost 12 months at this point, I have experienced a lot of different stereotypes. I've had a lot of different people say things to me that I thought, that doesn't quite add up, or that doesn't sound quite right. So in today's video, I'm going to be breaking down each one of those stereotypes and even some that you guys gave me off of Instagram and figuring out whether they are true or false. Now, if I miss any stereotypes, or if you have a strong opinion on this or any opinion, let me know down in the comments because I really want to know what you're thinking on this. So stereotype number 7, the one that I got the least, but it is definitely an important one, is that anyone can become an au pair. Just off the top of my head here, I kind of agree and disagree with this point. What I mean when I say I both agree and disagree, in the sense that I agree, yes, pretty much anyone who qualifies to be an au pair can be an au pair, but that doesn't mean that everyone is going to be good at being an au pair. One thing that I always tell people when they're considering becoming an au pair is au pairing requires a lot of responsibility. You're not just living with somebody else, or you're not just living in a different country, but you're taking care of their most prized possession, their children. And not just that, your host kids are going to look up to you. They're going to watch you. They're going to listen to every word you say, and they're going to imitate you. You will become a big part of their lives as their au pair. So you really need to make sure that you have your ducks in a row before you go and take care of somebody else's kids. Now, of course, you don't have to be a parenting guru or some kind of childcare master, but you do want to keep in mind that these kids are watching you. They have their eye on you, and they are going to copy you, and you are going to set an example for them. So while everyone can become an au pair, not everyone should become an au pair. So the ruling for this stereotype is it is partially true. All right, moving right along to stereotype number 6, the next one, and that is that all au pairs want to be teachers. Oh, you're an au pair, cool. So you're gonna be a teacher after this? No, I actually don't wanna be a teacher. No. So I can definitely see a correlation here, being that teachers spend a lot of time with kids, they enjoy being with kids, and au pairs spend a lot of time with kids, we enjoy being with kids, but I definitely don't think that that automatically means if you're an au pair, you want to be a teacher. I myself don't want to be a teacher. None of my au pair friends that I can think of want to be teachers, but I definitely think there is a correlation between the two fields. I know my current host family, their previous 3 au pairs, or maybe their previous 4, have all gone to college to be teachers. So there is definitely something to be said there about au pairs being teachers, but I don't think that it's a given that all au pairs are going to be teachers. There's no doubt that if you're wanting to be a teacher, being an au pair would be a great thing to put on a resume because it shows that you not only have interest in kids, but you have experience with them. But I definitely don't think that only people who want to be teachers can be au pairs. So if you don't want to be a teacher, don't worry about it. Me neither. So my verdict on stereotype number 6 is it is definitely false. Not all au pairs want to be teachers. Stereotype number 5 of au pairs is that au pairs have no drive or direction. So this is where it starts to really get under my skin because I hate when people imply this and when people say this about au pairs because this is blatantly false. While this does really bother me, I can see where it comes from. The nature of au pairing is not a career. Au pairing is something that you might do anywhere from a couple of months to a maximum of a couple of years. So it's not something you're gonna wanna do your whole life, nor is it something you even can do your whole life. So I can see where people would think that au pairs really don't have a lot of drive or direction because it's not something that directly contributes to a career. For example, there's no careers that require you to become an au pair before you jump into the career. Also, I think the base of this really comes from a career-driven society. I hear a lot in the US or from Americans where people will say, is au pairing really gonna help your career? Is it gonna help you later down on in life? And I think that's because Americans are obsessed with careers. We're obsessed with working and being the most qualified. So I think for a lot of people, it can be kind of difficult to wrap your mind around something like au pairing. Where I do think that this theory really strays from fact is that a lot of au pairs have plans. As a matter of fact, when I was writing this point, I could not think of a single friend of mine that does not have a plan after their time as an au pair. I think au pairs are driven people because to become an au pair, especially to get a visa, you have to have a lot of drive. You have to have a lot of desire to work at it, to work hard for it. You're learning a different language and a different culture. You're living with complete strangers. It's not the easiest thing you can do, and I do think that it requires a lot of drive and a lot of direction to be able to pull it off. Now granted, I'm not saying that all au pairs are driven and have direction, but as a general rule, I think they are. So overall, I think stereotype number 6 is false. Stereotype number 4, again, this one really bothers me, is that au pairs are just cheap domestic workers. Let me just jump right into this point by saying an au pair is neither a house cleaner nor a domestic worker. That is not how this works. I think where a lot of people get confused here is while au pairs are not domestic workers or housekeepers, they can do some house chores, and that is a part of a lot of au pairs' responsibilities. Generally, the chores that au pairs do are directly related to the kids. For example, making the kids' bed, doing their laundry, packing their lunches, cooking food for them. But generally it stops there. It's not chores for the entire family, it's not cleaning the whole house, and if that is something that an au pair is doing, then they're really outside of the au pair boundaries. That's not something that's normal for au pairs. Unfortunately, I think a lot of host families get mixed up here and think of au pairs as cheap domestic workers, which of course is not the case, but it does mean that a lot of au pairs get put in this awkward position. So my verdict on stereotype 4 is that it is partially false. It should be completely false, but unfortunately there are some bad nuts. Stereotype number 3 on the list is that au pairs are running away from responsibility and or college. To give you some background on this point, most people do their au pair stay either directly before college or directly after college. So I think a lot of people have this idea that au pairs are doing their au pair stay in order to run away from college or to run away from getting their career, and I just don't think that's true. Now, of course, there are going to be some people who use the au pair experience in order to run away from their responsibilities back home. I'm not denying that. There are definitely some au pairs that are guilty of that, but that does not mean that that's the purpose of au pairing. I also think that this point really makes less and less sense with the emergence of online college, as myself and a lot of other au pairs I know are doing full-time college while au pairing. So it's definitely possible, and it's something that's becoming much more prevalent versus skipping a whole year of college to go and become an au pair. Also, au pairs are generally taking language classes inside of their host country. It's not like we're just twiddling our thumbs waiting on the kids all day. I do principally disagree with this point as well, because I think au pairing is a great opportunity for personal advancement and growth. There are going to be lessons that you learn as an au pair, I attest this as fact, that you will not learn in a college classroom. I did 1.5 years of college before becoming an au pair, and I can tell you for sure that I learned so many lessons being an au pair that I never could have gotten at college or at university. So there is definitely something to be said about the experiential learning that you do as an au pair. To add on to that, au pairs are normally learning a foreign language. I have friends back home who've done Spanish for 3 years in college and university, and my Spanish is way better than theirs, and I've done 2 college classes in Spanish. Si yo siquiera podría hacer todo este video en español. So my verdict for stereotype 3 is it is false. Stereotype number 2, this is where it's really getting hairy for me, is that au pairs are just nannies. Oh cool, you're an au pair. That's just like a foreign nanny, right? How fancy. No, it's really quite different. Like an au pair is more of like a cultural exchange, and a nanny is, it's complicated. Wrong. This one is so wrong. So I have been both at this point. I was an au pair, and then I was a nanny, and now I'm an au pair again, and I can unequivocally tell you that it is entirely different. While both jobs obviously do revolve around children, they are completely different. It's the difference in being a teacher and a secretary at a school. Both involve children, but they're not the same jobs. As a nanny, your principal job is to take care of the kids. That's your only job. You generally have set hours, a salary, possibly even benefits, and you just show up to work, do your job, then leave. When I was a nanny, I would show up at my employer's house at 7:45 in the morning. I would work until precisely 3:15, and then I would go home. I was making a set number every week. I was making really good money, but a set number every week. They paid for my travel from my house to their house, and of course a salary on top of that. Being an au pair is completely different in the sense that you live with your family, and you're not just a live-in nanny. You live with them as a cultural exchange. You are taking your culture and you are exchanging it with their culture. I know this is kind of hard for a lot of people to grasp, but it is a different job. It really is. It's a totally different vibe. It's a completely different experience. I speak from my own experience, and you really can't compare the two. So my verdict of Stereotype 2 is that it is false. Alright, here we are. Stereotype number 1, the one that I definitely really get passionate about, and that is that au pairing is not a real job. This one really gets under my skin, because when you're sitting up at 10 o'clock at night doing math homework with a 9-year-old, or when you're dealing with a tantrum, or you're doing your very best to work out immigration issues in a language that you don't completely understand, trust me, it feels like a job. While most people think that au pairing is just fun, partying, running around your host city, you do have a job to do. You are somebody's employee, and yes, it is a cultural exchange, but you have a contract. You have things that the family expects out of you, things that they need from you. So it is definitely a job. While au pairs aren't paid as much as a lot of other jobs are, we do get our money in different ways, like free room and board, sometimes free transit, free travel, insurance, language school. All these things are generally paid for, or at least somewhat paid for, so we do get paid in different ways, more so legitifying au pairing as a job. I have to say here, if you think au pairing is not a job, spend a little while as an au pair. You will very quickly think that it is a job and change your opinion. So I can unequivocally say that Stereotype number 1, the biggest response I got from you guys is false. Au pairing is definitely a job, and a pretty good one in my opinion. Alright guys, so that wraps up my video on the 7 stereotypes of au pairs. If you've enjoyed it, be sure to like it, subscribe to the channel, and leave me a comment down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next time. New videos come every single Monday and Thursday, and I'll see you then. Muchas gracias y hasta luego. Ciao.